And Lindsey Graham has got to be at the top of the list. What a mess. And it falls to this show to discuss his LGBT life and rejection of us because mainstream media will not cover this. They talk about him being complicated. They talk about him being never married. They talk about his sister being appointed to his Senate seat. But nowhere have you heard the word gay in the mainstream media.
Well, it's interesting because you mentioned, the term never married. I haven't even seen that in most of the obits I've read. They just cruise past any sort of personal life whatsoever in what I've read, and with no mention except for the sister, which they never do in obituaries.
Half and half. I've seen never married. But here's the thing. He has been known to be a closet case gay for decades. There was a sex worker who talked about him having employed sex workers years ago. A guy named Sean, I didn't write down his last name, but you can look it up. And now here, this is Jesse James Rose that you see on the screen with a picture of Lindsey Graham. Jesse James Rose is also a sex worker and has come out with a whole long description of sex acts performed with Graham, saying that she did unspeakable things to Graham while he was in red lingerie for fat wads of cash, and talked about the complicated feelings of having people like Graham support her life with all this money to stay closeted, and how torn she is about having financial security by supporting this closeted life.
Now, I don't doubt for a second that Lindsey Graham was a closet case. But how much credence are we to put into this account? I mean, did she show up with receipts to say, hey, look, really and truly, this is it. This is what because really anybody could claim to have.
They could, but it's not the first claim. And it's been, this kind of activity has been rumored for a long time. I believe it. You don't have to believe it. Receipts, what? An actual signed receipt?
No, but you know what I mean.
The red lingerie?
Some sort of documentation or proof, or, like a hotel, I don't know, whatever.
I don't know. A witness, something. You're right. It's we're taking Jesse James Rose on faith, but I think it's absolutely believable. And whether it is or not, here's the real crux of the matter. And this is why I'm angry, particularly at the mainstream media. Lindsey Graham, closet case, doesn't want to talk about his gay life. Fine. I'm not the judgment police. I'm not saying he shouldn't have done that. I would have liked him to be out. But here's the real thing. He was one of the most anti-LGBT senators in the United States Congress. He voted against everything. He voted for the Defense of Marriage Act. He voted against the Employment Non-Discrimination Act. He voted against repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell for the military. Every time he had a chance to vote on our issues, he was on the wrong side. And this was, I guess, his way of covering his tracks. I don't know. I didn't talk to him about it. It may be just what he thought the voters needed so that he could stay in office and retain power. But it was just a disgusting display of treachery for the people who should have been his people.
Well, we are often our own worst enemy. I am not a fan of outing people, but I believe in it in two cases. Number one, when they're dead, and number two, when they're hypocrites. And in this case, it applies in both situations.
And to me, the issue, and Jesse James Rose talked about this in their Instagram post or whatever that was, about the fact that people who have power, people who are in public office, have a duty not to be closeted and not to act against the best interests of their LGBTQ plus community. That's the dividing line for a lot of us. If Lindsey Graham is a private citizen, damn him, but I don't feel a need to condemn any of his sexual proclivities. But if he is exercising power as a public figure, as an elected official, that's where the line is drawn. And those are the people who I believe should be outed along the way. And we have certainly talked about him as a closeted gay man for many, many, many years. And I have no hesitation about that. And I think we did the right thing. And I remain really furious at the mainstream media that they have not talked about that. It's not even that they didn't talk about the rumors. It's that they didn't talk about his voting record and tie that in. So,
well, there's a general whitewashing going on. The one thing they have talked about, because how could you not, is the fact that Lindsey Graham was actively opposed to Trump until he wasn't. And then he did this a complete 180 and ended up as the biggest suck-up to Trump on the planet, with one exception, Ukraine.
Well, and here's the picture that I refer to as Lindsey and his boyfriend. There they are on the golf course. He totally ditched his best friend, John McCain, when Trump did, and Lindsey wanted to retain power. It was just a really disgusting display. So what do we got here?
There's a statement from Michael Wolff, a journalist, that really sums up the nature of Lindsey Graham and his power in Washington.
Let's read this. History will long note Lindsey Graham as one of the emblematic figures of Trump politics. He, like so many others, but with even more shamelessness, understood that the key to political survival was to disregard all self-respect and all personal scruples and become a Donald Trump suck-up. Lindsey is the model for J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio and so many others. He was a South Carolina Republican who, while being in the closet, but not in the closet enough so that everyone in Washington didn't know, perfected the art of political survival.
He continues, and then Trump came along and held Lindsey's gayness as a threat over his head. Lindsey understood that he had to be a Trump lackey. That was necessary for him to exist in Trump's Washington. Of course, now dead at 71, Lindsey didn't survive after all. All that should give other Trump toadies pause. Everybody thinks that they can outweight him and do whatever it takes to get beyond Trump so they can eventually do something better with their lives and careers. But to date, whether feet first or otherwise, nobody has.
Thank you, Michael Wolff. That's the one of the few semi-mainstream comments that I think nailed it. So